Yo, dude, what is up, my friend?
My good friend, we are here talking about, I think, one of my favorite things to talk about.
Ooh,
And we are T minus 72 hours
ooh, it's close.
from, I feel like it's Christmas. I feel like we're coming up to a major holiday and we get to experience it together this Thursday.
I know, dude, I'm so excited. And for those of you wondering what the heck we're talking about, it's a little thing called Critical Role. And we decided to make this video because a lot of people don't know what that is. What is Critical Role, they might ask. And so we decided to kind of fill people in here. Some of our fans from our other MCU videos or whatever. Plus, I just have a lot of friends in real life that I've been
Yeah.
jabbering about Critical Role to for years now. And with the start of a new campaign, I feel like it's the perfect time to kind of get introduced to it. So,
It's definitely the perfect time, and it's like there's so much excitement that like we're culminating into because
mhm,
so much is happening in the Critical Role world.
yeah,
There was the Twitch leak last week or the week before that had Critical Role basically at number one in terms
yeah,
of like overall payouts. And people then were like, what the heck's Critical Role? Amazon is publishing the animated series, The Legend of Vox Machina, which
yep,
again, people are like, wait, what is
yeah.
that?
What is this?
Um, there's just a lot of really freaking awesome stuff happening. And so I think part of the reason also we wanted to make this video is I don't know about you, but I'm so excited. I just needed to get on the mic again and talk more D&D before episode 1 this coming Thursday, which we didn't even say who we are and what we
Oh,
do.
yeah.
That's might be an important detail. So we're the Pixelists.
Yes,
I'm
hello.
Blake.
I'm Will.
That's Will. Yeah. And we talk about our favorite nerdy stuff, which a lot of times ends up being the MCU and D&D. And like my buddy Will said, we've had friends who've maybe never played D&D, but have heard about Critical Role. They want to know more about it. And so if you have been waiting to get into one of the best forms of content, best forms of entertainment for you to enjoy, this Thursday is a great opportunity for that, and we want to set you up well to be able to enjoy it well. So that's what we're doing today.
Yes, well said. And yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited. So I hope that if you're watching this video right now and you're wondering what Critical Role is, you will give it a shot because trust me, you won't regret it. And I mean, without I guess lollygagging too much further, we could kind of jump right into this. Which first and foremost, I guess what actually is Critical Role, and to put it hopefully not too long, it is a live streamed Dungeons and Dragons campaign played by a host of voice actors, professional voice actors, and just actors, regular. They do more than just the voice acting. And it is a. Well, hold on. Let me just get this right in front of me here. It is 7. I can't believe I don't know this off the top of my head, but it's run by the dungeon master named Matthew Mercer, and it's him and his uh, real life friends who all happen to be voice actors. We've got Travis Willingham, Laura
Mhm.
Bailey, Marisha Ray, Ashley Johnson, Liam O'Brien.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I
No,
just
you're fine.
had to give a shout out.
Sam Regal, and originally there was another member named Orion Akaba, but he is no longer with the Critical Role. But I felt like I should at least mention it here.
Sure. Yeah,
They
when we're talking, yeah, he hasn't been with the show for a long time, many years, but definitely since we're talking origin of Critical Role, I think you're right. It's appropriate to mention him in the original cast for sure.
Yeah, and they did eventually part ways, but yeah, so it's this group of friends that are all playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I guess
Which Will, what the heck is Dungeons and isn't that satanic thing that you do like in your basement
it
or
is.
something? Like you said with such a menace. Someone who like somehow came across this video was like, I knew it. What the heck is D&D? Maybe I've heard of it before. You guys who were listening, maybe you've never played it, but you're like, what is D&D? What is this game that we're talking about? These people play on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and real quick, I for some reason I'm like, did I say Taliesin? Taliesin
Yeah,
Jaffe.
huh?
Okay, okay. I was
I
just
think so.
all right,
Well,
just in
now
case
now
I
I'm
didn't.
wondering, did you?
Taliesin Jaffe, the immortal old one
Who's
himself. Like,
who's amazing. So
yeah,
I don't know if we did forget him, it wouldn't be any slight towards him.
yeah,
It's just you're just naming people on the spot. And I think, I can't say enough how amazing and synergistic this cast is together.
yes,
They're incredibly fun to watch. I love all of them. They really vibe and mesh well with one another, and they play the D&D game well with one another. I think that's also what adds to the enjoyment is how Critical Role started was some people playing in their house together, just friends, just playing D&D, and someone was like, "Hey, why don't we stream this on Twitch?"
yeah.
And so at the
Basically,
end of the day, these are friends who play this game together. So it's really fun to see that happen.
yeah, it really is. They do have there's a love at the table, and they're all very comfortable with each other, and it's really is just like this perfect chemistry. And yeah, just I had to make sure that I didn't accidentally leave out Taliesin. Hopefully, I didn't, and now we just have shouted him out multiple times. But yeah. So what is D&D? So it stands for Dungeons and Dragons, and you might have to help me out here because I always have a hard time kind of describing this. But it's basically a group of friends that are all getting together and kind of collaboratively telling a story. There are two roles in D&D. One of which is the game master or the dungeon master, and they are kind of in control of the world itself. They or at least in Critical Role's case, they
Mhm.
created the world, all the characters in it, everything that happens. They are in control. They are like the god of the world in a way, in the
Yeah.
sense that they are dictating everything that happens, or at least guiding everything that happens.
They are creating the world and the things in it for the players to interact with. So they're not simply a narrator, they're also
Correct.
sort of like um they're moving things behind the scenes and positioning things that they eventually put in front of the player.
Yes, a good way to think of it is like an author of your favorite, but like Tolkien is, the creator of Middle Earth and everything that happens in it. A DM is kind of has a similar role. It's not a perfect analogy, but think of it like, they're creating all of these characters, places, the lore of the universe. Um, so there's that
Yeah.
role, and then there is the players. So there's one typically dungeon master, and everyone else at the table is a player, and their role in this is to create their own character that will then inhabit this world that the dungeon master has created. And obviously it depends based on your specific games. Mileage may vary, but for the most part, you have free reign to kind of create whatever character you want that fits within the particular rule set of the game you're playing. And it's up to you to decide how that character is going to act, how their
Mhm.
personality is going to be. Are they going to be good? Are they going to be evil? How are they going to deal with any given situation that they may be presented with? And that's kind of the beauty and fun of the game is you get to
Absolutely.
role play as in a lot of cases these fantastical people, and you get to inhabit this world that your friend created, or at least there are lots of D&D universes and stuff that are pre-made for people to use so that you don't have to like be a world builder yourself. um but yeah, that's just the beauty of it, and the kind of the kind of the flavor that makes D&D different than say like a book is one, you have all these actual humans making decisions, but two, the dice rolls kind of determine what happens. So it's not just, hey, you're presented with a damsel in distress. Do you save her? Do you ignore her? A monster's about to kill her. You could be like, okay, well, I kill the monster. You're not just necessarily successful. It depends on the rolls of dice, and that's what kind of keeps it interesting and makes it,
Yeah,
you never
I
know.
think of it as like this imaginative world, but to like keep it from, it's like when you played as a kid, you were like, well, I have a bazooka, and then you're like, well, I have a bazooka immune shield, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I have a bazooka immune shield piercing bazooka. Like with that, keeping it from becoming like ridiculous and going off rails, we have this basic like stat block for your character, and it's kind of like how you quantify the value of your character. And it's across these 6 different stats, and you can think of it as like not just the personality of your character, but also like the archetype of your character. Is it more of a and I apologize that we're just going back to Middle Earth, but I feel like this is like such
I
the
feel
most
like
relatable
let's keep the same
example.
analogy all the way through, you know?
Yeah, it feels like this is very easy for people to grasp. It's like if you wanted to play like a Gimli dwarf type character versus a Legolas, more agile type character. Those are different kinds of characters. And so the stat block, how you allocate your points dictates then the kind of character that you are.
Yeah.
And then the dice rolls is like I mentioned earlier, it's to keep the imaginative story from going off rails. It's like it's the boundaries, it's the constraints of the story, and so you're constantly rolling dice, which is all sorts of dice. By the way, if you've never played, it'll blow your mind. There's a 20-sided dice,
There are lots
but
of
you're
dice.
rolling dice to basically see how things progress in the story. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, and I mean that's what keeps it interesting, right? Like because if there weren't the dice involved, it would just be all right. Well, I do this and you do this, and
right,
we won. We killed the bad guy. It's over. Like the dice add a very it's like a critical part of the whole experience.
right.
It's that random chance that kind of is life. You never know what's gonna happen to you in
And
the next moment.
and part of the fun of it is you're also progressing your character as well. And in many
Hmm.
cases, that takes a little bit. It can slant the dice in your favor, like where you can like add a flat value to the
Yeah.
dice roll that you did. And then one other detail is that, and I can't remember if you said this, but the DM, it almost feels like this is happening more and more. The DM is often now being referred to as the GM, the game master,
Hmm.
because Dungeons and Dragons started as more of a we're getting together and we're dungeon diving, like, hey, here's the mission, here's the quest. You're going into this cave, it's a deep cave system, you're trying to rescue whatever. And now it's not uncommon for there to be these longer spanning stories, where it's not necessarily a dungeon, it is a long form piece of content that the GM is sort of mastering in terms of telling it.
Right.
And that's what we can expect for this Thursday when we've been talking about the new campaign is starting.
Correct. Yeah. So D&D, we just kind of gave you the big nutshell. That's how you play. And so of course a story is being told while you play. And like Blake just pointed out, um in the case of Critical Role, in the case of many D&D games, there's a story that takes place over the course of years sometimes. Like maybe all your friends get together one night and you play for 6 hours and then you never play again and you're done. But in the case of Critical Role, they get together every week and continue the same story. So it becomes this quite literally epic tale, that is one of my favorite pieces of fiction that I've ever consumed. I would rank it up there with, my like Lord of the Rings, for example, or Breaking Bad. Like it's high quality, and
Those are bold claims.
it's true. I stand by it. And
We'd call you a fan, right? I mean, you got you got a little bit of CR gear. I mean, I'm wearing my Exandria Unlimited shirt,
ah,
so I
bro,
get it.
I was literally trying to find my uh Stonejaw Ale shirt for this, which is a shirt referencing campaign one, and I literally looked for like 20 minutes before. I don't know where it is. I'm very upset.
What a
but
shame.
but yeah. And so yeah, like you were saying, one final part I wanted to add about D&D is that, you have these statistics and stuff that inform your gameplay and your ability to do things. But kind of like an RPG, like video game, you level up.
Hmm.
Get stronger. And that's one of the other like really fun parts of the game is, if you've ever played any RPG, you'll, know what I'm talking about. You know, progressing, getting stronger and, doing cool stuff. That's like a big part of it as well. And I don't want to
And I,
wax. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and you're right. We're definitely getting a little long-winded on this. I was just going to add that it can seem a little inaccessible, but it's actually incredibly like once
Right.
you watch an episode, it's like, oh, this is intuitive. Will, this? I don't know if our listeners know this, but I'm DMing a campaign on Tuesday nights with 7 people, which is a fairly large group, and 5 out of the 7 have literally never played D&D before. They've never watched Critical Role before. They don't know anything about D&D, and they have just loved playing it. And that's because this concept of like storytelling and dice rolls, it's almost like playing a really awesome board game,
Hmm.
but there's not like a actual board in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And um you really put it well there, that where it may be daunting to like get into, or especially not even if you're going to play, but just if you're interested in watching, you're going to be like, well, I don't know how D&D works. I don't understand these mechanics. The dice roll, what do you mean? You don't really need to know any of that. It's kind of second. It takes a back seat to the actual story that's unfolding. It would
Right.
be, like I said, like watching Lord of the Rings or watching Breaking Bad. Obviously, it's a little different, but you don't need to understand D&D to really enjoy the story, and you will pick up on it as it goes anyway. Um, but yeah, so I think we hopefully have given a bit of a picture on what D&D actually is. And so again, Critical Role is a bunch of talented voice actors that are playing for our enjoyment, for their own enjoyment, and they just happen to stream it. Because like Blake mentioned, this started as just they were friends and playing themselves at home. They actually started for a birthday gift for Liam O'Brien. He was like, let's play D&D with some of my friends for my birthday. And they did it, and a bunch of them had never played before, about half
Wow.
of them. And they just all fell in love and kept doing it. And then, like Blake
That's
mentioned,
great. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
they eventually
That's
got
special.
approached. Yeah, it's super special, and that's part of the whole magic of all of this. But yeah, so then they got approached and were like, let's make this a streaming thing. And so they did, and they didn't really change anything. They just turned a camera on, basically. They don't hamming it up for the fact that they're on stream or anything like that. And that's kind of, again, the kind of beauty of the chemistry that they have. Um, but yeah, so let's see. They started filming it, right? And that was called Campaign 1, which was about 100 episodes, 115. And then they ended. They kind of reached a conclusion to the story they were telling and took a little break for a bit. And then they started a second campaign, which just concluded this past year, um, and was about 150-ish episodes. I can't remember exactly, but took place over the course of 3 years in our time.
Mm.
Um, and like I said, that just recently ended. So what's about to begin now is campaign 3, the third one.
Mm.
They've been doing
And
this.
we
Go
had
ahead.
Exandria Unlimited also, which was
Correct.
think of it as like in the same universe, but whole different cast. It was a limited run series. Um, 8 episodes? I
Yep.
can't remember now.
Yeah, it was.
Eight episodes. So that kind of filled the void of the hiatus. And then I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
You were saying this Thursday, campaign 3.
Yeah, so campaign 3 starts. And actually, thank you for saying that. So Matt Mercer, the GM, created this whole world that this story takes place in. Again, to go to the Tolkien example, it's like Tolkien had Middle Earth, Matt has Exandria. It's this world he created. It's where campaign 1, 2, and 3 now are all going to take place. But they are not like sequels. It's more like, um, well, that's not a good example, but there's just this world and all these different stories take place in it. So yeah, there are things you could maybe pick up on from, oh, I remember like this location was visited once in campaign 1, but it's not like a direct sequel. You don't have to have seen campaign 1 or 2 or Exandria Unlimited to enjoy this. But like I said, obviously there's maybe like some Easter eggs or illusions you can pick up on, which is fun.
Yeah, it's almost like an anthology where every
Yes.
campaign is its own insulated story.
Nice.
It's a little unfair to put it that way, though, in the sense of, like you mentioned, there are references to events in the other campaigns, nice Easter eggs that you'll pick up on if you've watched the show. And in some cases, the setting is the current circumstances have been shaped by the things that have happened um, world-wise, worldwide, if that makes sense, in the previous campaigns. But like
Yeah.
Will mentioned, it's not sequential and like, here's the same cast, now here's part 2. I mean, it is the
Yeah.
same cast, but not the same characters. Everyone, which there's a lot of excitement over this, everyone will be playing new characters this Thursday, presumably starting at level 2 as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah, and well said. So like we mentioned the whole list of people in the cast earlier, Matt's the GM, everyone else is a player. Throughout the entirety of campaign 1 and 2, with some exceptions that I won't get into, the players cast were all playing their singular character throughout the entire thing. And so, there's these awesome character arcs and stories that unfold. And so, like Blake said, a lot of the big excitement is getting to see like who are these next characters we're going to be spending, you know, presumably the next couple of years with getting to know. And it's so hard to draw the perfect analogy to this, and I'm not trying to wax too poetic on, things we've already covered, but just like imagine again for the Middle Earth analogy, imagine if, Aragorn, Frodo, and Legolas were like real people that got to in the moment like choose and make their decisions, not just Tolkien deciding like, oh, on page 6 Aragorn's going to stab somebody. It's like Tolkien asking Aragorn, hey Aragorn, what are you going to do if I throw this orc at you? So it's kind of like hard to explain, but it's just really cool and like
Yeah.
a type of narrative you don't get anywhere else, because you actually have living, breathing characters actually making decisions that are then, dictated by the rolls of dice.
Mm,
So it's
yeah.
you can't get it kind of anywhere else. This
Mhm.
type of entertainment, this type of fiction.
It's yeah, and like you said, I think you said it really well. It can seem kind of daunting, but like once you watch an episode, which it for those who've never watched, it may start a little slow this Thursday because we're world building, so to speak, or we're setting building a little bit. It may not, I don't know, but I wouldn't let that turn you off. But like once it clicks, like once you're watching an episode and you see some of the back and forth and the intensity and the emotion and all this incredible stuff, it's hard not to be bought in.
Yeah.
So it might be good to mention what is our recording schedule going to look like. What can people watching the Pixelist podcast or listening to it, what can they expect in terms of D&D content? So episodes go live on Thursday nights at it is 9 p.m. Central Time or 7
7.
p.m. Pacific Time.
Correct.
And what'll happen is the episode will go live. A typical episode can be around 4 hours, sometimes longer, sometimes it can be shorter. And if you can't watch it on Thursday nights, the next morning at 11 a.m. Central Time, it gets played again on Twitch. And then the following Monday, they release onto their YouTube channel the VOD of the episode. So there's a few different ways that you can watch it. Regardless of when you watch, Will and I will be planning on going live on Fridays, so the immediate day to follow, to talk about our reactions to the episode. And we'll do two things in that reaction. We'll talk about a brief recap of what happened in the episode. And we're not clear yet if we're going to split these up or not. We'll do a recap. We'll also do our reactions, our theories of what will happen next, which, not to brag, but we're usually pretty good about it. And that'll be our content schedule, is Fridays, getting it recorded, getting it published. Shout out to Will, who does a lot of the heavy lifting with that. I do have a 18-month-old and a second child on the way. So the timing might be a little wonky on those Fridays. But you can typically expect it always to be out on Friday at some point. And then the last week of the month, they are taking a week off. Will and I haven't talked about if we're going to take that week off as well, or if we'll put something out to fill the void of D&D. But essentially, again, you can expect Fridays to see a video from us.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, lives sometimes happen. As Blake said, he has, soon to be 2 little ones running around. But the plan is Fridays. You and I still need to talk about this, but we were thinking the recap is usually what takes us a bit longer because we want to like make sure we're getting everything covered. So we might do the reaction discussion Friday, and then it might be a couple days until like the recap goes up. Maybe we're still figuring this out.
We're still figuring out, because we recognize that some of you guys who you love D&D, and this happens to us too. Critical Role is a show that it's hard to dedicate the time every week just because it is a long piece of content.
Right.
And so there might be a week that happens that you're like, man, I couldn't catch that episode, but I want to hear discussion about it. Just give me the 20-minute recap. So we want to have that content still there. We just aren't sure quite yet how or when we'll record it. And then you can always go back and watch the actual episode later if you need to.
Right.
So,
and yeah, this is long form content, which is part of the reasons we think the recap could be valuable. Like Blake said, episodes can be about 4 hours. I'd say on average they're probably around three. Sometimes they're 2.5, and there's been a 7 hour episode before. So that was like a special circumstance, but they can be long. And I know that daunts a lot of people. That's one of the reasons people have a hard time getting into Critical Role when I've told them about it, because they'll be like, wait, there's been 89 episodes so far and they're 3 hours each. Like, I don't have time for that, bro. And I'll be like,
Right.
first of all, you have time. I know you watch Netflix. But second of all, it's not a bad thing. And that's the thing I like to like tell people is like, if you had an amazing show and you
Yeah.
found out there were 12 seasons of it, and I told you that it wasn't like a Showtime show and just started going downhill eventually, it stayed good, you would
I'm watching
be
you, Dexter.
excited. Yeah.
I see you, Dexter.
Um
He's coming back though.
but yeah, it is a lot, and but it is great and it's worth it. And just one more thing I'll say about the the kind of Middle Earth analogy is that, I love Lord of the Rings. I think a lot of people do, is like the books and the movies. You grow attached to those characters. And, part of that is kind of the time spent with them. Obviously, it's deeper than that because you grow to love them for, you know,
Right.
obviously a myriad of different reasons. But part of it is the fact that you spend a lot of time with them, and that's kind of the reason this is so powerful and so good, is because you spend such a long time with these characters because the content is so long that it just, resonates that much stronger. So I know it can be daunting, but I would just say that it's worth it. And you don't have to watch it in one sitting. You don't have to watch it right when it's live. You've got all the time in the world. So I definitely recommend, if you're new to this, dive in with us on campaign 3, and
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
we get a lot of comments on our D&D videos. We'd love you to be part of this journey with us. We think D&D is a beautiful thing, and it's I'm not trying to sound like way more serious than it is, but it's a uniter of people. Like, you get together and you collaborate on this story, and then other people watching get to experience it too. So we love seeing comments on our channel on those D&D videos, and we want you to be part of the journey too. And if you miss a week, we'd encourage you not to drop CR altogether, but watch one of our recaps and tell us what you think about the episode. And like I said, we'll be on this journey together, maybe for the next couple of years.
Ooh, yes, and well said. D&D really is. I mean, not to sound sappy and not to sound weird, it's like a Dungeon Dragon game. It really is like beautiful, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of catharsis to like role playing, and that this is if you're actually playing, but you can just watching it as well. And so I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention one more time just like how awesome this group of people is. They really are like, obviously I don't know them personally, but from having spent literal hundreds of hours like seeing them, and you see more than just like you see their interactions outside of the game as well, because they're just friends at a table.
Yeah.
So it's that they're really awesome people, and I couldn't wish anyone else that, like, I'm so happy that they've found this success. Like, they went from
Yeah.
just friends playing a game to now they're one of the biggest
Brands.
earner on Twitch, and they have this
Yeah.
animated series coming out. Um, it's just it couldn't have happened to better people. So
Yeah. Well, this video's we're getting a little long. Let's wrap it up. And I want to ask you, final question, big prediction. Give me one big
oh,
prediction
just
for campaign 3.
hmm,
I
huh.
can go first if you want to think
Yeah,
for a
yeah. Go
second.
ahead. If you already got something, go ahead.
Yeah. My big prediction for campaign 3 is we will see a total party kill.
Oh, bro.
Bold and big prediction.
Dang, dude. That's intense. That would be crazy.
Yep.
All right. Mine is that it's kind of I'm a two-pronged. I'm gonna give it two-pronged. One, I think we will have a guest DM of the main campaign. But two, I think a guest will play a bad. Maybe not the big bad, but I think a guest will be brought in to like play one of the adversaries, which hasn't been done
Mm,
before.
yeah. That second claim was good. The first one, not so much, since they pretty much already told
They
us.
didn't say
But
that, not explicitly. They just said,
I
expect
think
some stuff.
someone will roll a dice. So I'll take your second one, though. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
All
All
right.
right. All right. Do we need to do a thumbnail real quick?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna. You have any like your dice nearby?
Yeah, I think they're in the other room because I was setting up for. Let me just double check. I was setting up for my session tomorrow night.
Okay.
So I don't have them in here for me, unfortunately.
All right. Well, I'm gonna
You
be
can
like,
always I'll
okay.
do this.
All right.
All right, cool.
Nice, man.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We're excited to see you all this Friday, the day following our episode and our Critical Role episode. And definitely tune in, grab the popcorn, get some snackage going on. Let us know in the comments what snacks you're going to have for this big premiere ep. And we're looking forward to it. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at PXLists. And other than that, that's all we got for you. We're excited.
Yeah. And hit us with your predictions down below because I'm interested.
Yeah. Big and bold claims for campaign 3.
Yeah. All right. Well, can't wait to talk to you guys about this.
All right.
Bye.
Deuces.